Hey, welcome, Magnus here. If you're new to this channel, I talk about cameras such as DSLR and mirrorless cameras for video recording specifically. Hang out and check it out. So the A7 III was just announced. Is it the best camera for $2,000? I don't know. Alright, so A7 III was announced. Its price point was about 2,000 US American dollars. And what features are you getting for that buy? Well, comparably, a lot of people have been calling it like the child of the A9 or the A9 Mini or the A9 Baby. And that's because you've got the same autofocus system that you get out of the A9, and you've got the same 4K features out of this camera, amongst other things. The body's pretty impressive as well. The battery life has been increased thanks to the bigger Z battery when compared to the A7 II, all at an attractive price point. I mean, this thing seems to be a pretty big powerhouse. One of the major significant differences from this camera as when compared to the A7R III, besides the huge drop in price, is the fact that you don't get 42 megapixels, you get 24 megapixels. So what video features do you get out of that? Well, it's pretty similar to the A7R III when it comes to video features. 4K at 30p, and you've got S-Log2, S-Log3, and pretty much a stellar autofocus system. From that, it's got more autofocus points than the A7R III, and it has pretty much what you'd want in a camera body, except for no flippy screen. It's got the traditional, swivel screen that you can't rotate around against you. All for the price point of $2,000 for a full frame camera body that records 4K. Sony's just killing it when it comes to this camera business. They've really stepped up their game. Now let's compare this price point to a couple of other cameras that are released for that same price point. Now the two that come to mind are the Canon 6D Mark II and the Panasonic GH5. I'm not going to say the GH5S because that's a little bit more expensive than $2,000. So let's look at the video features and which ones are better. First, you've got the Canon 6D Mark II with a flip screen, which comes into play and it's pretty useful, but it doesn't offer 4K in that full frame body, and it only gives you 1080p at 60 frames per second, and pretty much that's it. I mean, plus you don't have that all eye compression. You only have IPB, no Canon log, and is the Canon really in the game? Well, maybe. Not everybody cares about 4K, and the dual pixel autofocus that's offered in the Canon 6D Mark II on that full frame body make using that camera pretty attractive. And you've got the flip out screen too, and you've got selfie mode, and for vloggers, that's a pretty good choice. As far as your cinematic quality that you get out of that camera for $2,000. Then you've got the king of video, the Panasonic GH5. The sensor is not as big. It's a micro four thirds sensor, so it's about a 2x crop. But what do you get out of it for that price point? 60p 4K. You get 10-bit 4K 422. You get, for $100 more, you get Vlog, and you get a ton of features and the flip out screen with the Panasonic GH5. And both the Sony and the Panasonic have 5-axis in-body stabilization, which is great. The Canon does not, but the Canon does have electronic stabilization, so that it's at least something rather than nothing. You also get with the GH5 a ton of video modes and a good, I guess, workhorse camera for video. So that's what you get out of that. But then the GH5 has failed, and in my opinion continues to fail when compared to Sony or Panasonic with the unfortunately abysmal autofocus system. So autofocus, I've said it a million times, GH5 can't compare to Canon and even to Sony when it comes to autofocus. So if you're a video person, is the A7 III worth the price? I say it definitely is. It's definitely worth the price. However, I will be honest, when it was first announced and when it was talked about, I said, you know what, I think I'd rather wait for the A7S III, which I would expect an announcement maybe perhaps later this year. However, what makes it attractive is the video features that you actually do get for the price point of $2,000 that make it very competitive. Personally, I'm still going to hold out till the A7S III is announced, and then I will see the pros and cons of each. But I am definitely paying attention to Sony. I don't have any Sony cameras, but this makes me almost want to just see what I'm missing out on. So I didn't test the A7III at all. I'm just getting my news, just like you guys. I'm looking it up. I'm seeing what's available, and just kind of going from there. And we'll see what happens. Let me know what you guys think. I got a question for you. Do you think that the A7III, from a video perspective, outperforms the Canon and the GH5? Let me know in the comments down below. Just by opinion, from a specs, and whether you think it's worth it. As always, like, share, hit my Twitter up, and you can make my day if you subscribe today. This is Magnus, and I'm out. See you guys later.